Open up the average prepper's bug-out bag, and you'll usually find the same thing. 40, 50, sometimes upwards of 100 individual items, crammed into a pack so heavy, the person carrying it can barely jog 100 yards without their shoulders screaming. Multiple knives they'll never use. 3 different fire-starting gadgets doing the exact same job. Enough canned food to survive a siege, sitting there adding weight ounce by ounce until the whole bag becomes something you genuinely struggle to actually move fast in an emergency. Here's what people trained in actual survival, evasion, and escape scenarios will tell you. The ones who've had to build and carry these systems for real, not just for a hobby shelf in the garage. More gear does not mean more prepared. In a genuine emergency, a bag you can't move quickly with is often more dangerous than not having one at all. There's a reason this particular philosophy stands out so sharply from the typical hobbyist approach, and it comes down to what the bag is actually built for in the first place. A hobbyist kit is often assembled slowly, over months or years, one exciting purchase at a time, each new item bought because it looked genuinely useful sitting on a shelf or in a video, without ever being weighed against everything already sitting in the bag. A professionally built kit, by contrast, gets assembled backward, starting from a hard weight and space budget, then working down to only the items that earn their specific place inside that budget. That single difference in approach, starting from limits rather than starting from enthusiasm, is really what separates a lean 9-item system from an overloaded 80-item one. And it's the exact mindset shift this entire video is built around. So today I'm walking you through 9 items, the actual core of what military-trained survival specialists build their kits around. And more importantly, the specific philosophy behind why it's 9 deliberate choices instead of 90 scattered ones. Every item on this list has to earn its place by doing more than one job, because weight is the enemy of speed. And speed is very often the difference between a manageable emergency and a genuine crisis. Stick around, because I'm also going to walk you through the exact mistake almost every prepper makes with their medical kit specifically. The one piece of gear where getting the organization wrong, not just the contents, can genuinely cost you critical seconds when it matters most. Let's get into it. Item number 1 is a single, high-quality fixed-blade knife. And I want to be clear about something right away. This is not about having the biggest or most tactical-looking blade you can find. Trained survival specialists consistently favor one solid, full-tang fixed blade over a drawer full of folding knives and gadget blades, because a fixed blade is stronger, more reliable under real stress, and versatile enough to handle food preparation, building shelter, processing firewood, and basic first aid tasks, all with the same single tool. The mistake most preppers make here is carrying multiple knives, a big survival knife, a small folding knife, all adding weight for redundancy that a single well-chosen blade already covers. One knife chosen well, maintained properly, and actually practiced with beforehand, beats 3 knives you've never really trained on, and are just hoping will somehow work when the moment actually arrives. Item number 2 is a genuine water filtration system. Not just a bottle of water, because a few bottles will run out fast, and water is heavy to carry in bulk, roughly a bit over 2 pounds per liter, which adds up brutally fast across a multi-day scenario. A compact filter capable of processing water straight from a stream, a puddle, or any questionable source into something safe to drink is one of the single highest value items in any serious kit, because clean water is consistently the fastest limiting factor in any survival situation, well ahead of food. The mistake preppers commonly make here is relying on purification tablets alone, or packing multiple different filtration gadgets that all do roughly the same job, instead of one dependable system they've actually tested beforehand, in a low-stakes setting, at home, in the yard, before they're depending on it for real. Item number 3 is a single-wall stainless steel container, ideally with a nesting cup design, and this pairs directly with your water filter to complete what specialists sometimes call the full water sequence. Here's why single-wall construction specifically matters, and why it's not just a minor spec detail. A stainless steel container, without any insulating double wall, can go directly onto an open flame to boil water, which gives you a second, completely independent method of purification. If your filter ever fails or gets clogged in the field, an insulated bottle, the kind most people already own and default to packing, cannot safely go into a fire, which quietly removes one of your best backup options exactly when you might need it most. This is a perfect example of the core philosophy running through this entire list, one well-chosen piece of gear doing 2 critical jobs, hydration, and emergency boiling, instead of two separate pieces of gear, each only doing one. Item number 4 is a redundant fire starting system. And I do mean redundant here specifically, because fire is one of the few categories on this list where trained specialists genuinely do recommend backup, given how critical it is for warmth, water purification through boiling, signaling for rescue, and basic morale in a prolonged situation. The standard approach is a ferro rod as your primary method, since it works reliably even when wet and doesn't run out the way a lighter's fuel eventually will, paired with a compact backup lighter as a fast, simple secondary option. The mistake most preppers make isn't insufficient redundancy here. It's actually the opposite, packing 4 or 5 different fire-starting gadgets that all essentially do the same job when two well-chosen, genuinely different methods, one that works wet and one that works fast, already covers this category completely without the extra bulk. Item number 5 is a properly organized individual first aid kit. And this is genuinely the item where philosophy matters more than contents, so listen closely here. Trained specialists organize their medical kit around something called the March Protocol, an acronym standing for massive hemorrhage, airway, respiration, circulation, and hypothermia, which lists the most immediately life-threatening problems in the exact order they're statistically most likely to actually kill someone. The entire point of organizing a kit this way is that the single most dangerous item, whatever's needed to stop severe bleeding, is also the single easiest thing to locate instantly under real stress, rather than being buried somewhere in the middle of a pile of small bandages and blister pads. This is precisely the mistake almost every prepper makes with their first aid kit. They load it up with dozens of minor comfort items, antacids, small adhesive bandages, allergy medication, and then bury the one component that could genuinely save a life, trauma gear for severe bleeding, somewhere at the bottom where it takes precious extra seconds to actually find in an emergency. Organize your kit by what could kill you fastest, not by what's simply convenient to have on hand for minor everyday scrapes. It's worth understanding why this ordering matters so much, physiologically, not just organizationally. Severe bleeding can cause someone to lose consciousness within minutes, sometimes less, which means the window to actually intervene successfully is genuinely narrow and completely unforgiving of wasted time spent digging through a poorly organized kit. A blocked airway kills almost as fast. Compare that to something like a minor cut or a headache, which, while genuinely uncomfortable, simply isn't racing against the same kind of urgent internal clock. Packing your kit so the fastest killers sit right at the very top, immediately accessible without having to unzip multiple compartments or dig past unrelated items, is a small organizational choice that can translate directly into whether a genuine emergency stays survivable or doesn't. Item number 6 is a versatile shelter system, and rather than a heavy, single-purpose tent, trained specialists typically favor something far more flexible, a quality poncho or tarp, paired with paracord, capable of being configured multiple different ways depending on conditions, a simple lean-to, a full enclosed shelter, ground cover to keep you off cold or wet earth, or even in a pinch, a way to collect rainwater. The mistake most preppers make here is packing a heavy, rigid tent that only really does one single job well, and often does it slowly, when a lighter, genuinely adaptable shelter system covers considerably more scenarios for a meaningful fraction of the weight and the packed size. Item number 7 is quality cordage, specifically paracord, and this item might sound almost too simple to earn its own dedicated spot on a list like this. But ask any trained survival specialist and they'll tell you cordage is one of the single most versatile tools you can carry. Full stop. It builds and secures your shelter, it lashes together an improvised stretcher if someone gets injured, it can be used for fishing line in a genuine pinch, it repairs damaged gear on the fly, and depending on the specific type you choose, some paracord even contains inner strands that can be pulled out individually and used separately for finer tasks like sewing or building small snares. 50 to 100 feet, ideally doesn't weigh much or take up much space, and yet it solves an enormous range of completely unrelated problems, which is exactly the kind of multi-use value this entire list is built around. Item number 8 is dependable, non-electronic land navigation, meaning a physical map of your specific region alongside a genuine compass, and this is precisely the category where trained specialists diverge most sharply from how the average person, prepper or not, tends to think about modern preparedness. Phones die. Batteries run out at the worst possible moment. Cell towers and GPS satellites can become unreliable, or entirely unavailable during a genuine large-scale emergency, whether from a natural disaster knocking out infrastructure or simply a dead battery with no way to recharge it. A map and a compass never run out of battery, never lose signal, and never require a single dependency on any piece of infrastructure outside the actual item sitting in your hand. The mistake almost everyone makes here, preppers very much included, is treating their phone as their entire navigation plan, with absolutely no physical backup at all, if that phone simply stops working when it matters most. There's a broader lesson buried inside this specific item too, one that quietly runs through several others on this list as well. Trained specialists have a strong general bias toward tools that function completely independently of batteries, signal, or any external system they can't personally control. A solar charger sounds appealing in theory, but it depends entirely on sunlight and clear weather cooperating exactly when you need it most. A GPS app depends on satellites, a working phone and battery life all lining up simultaneously. A map, a compass, a ferro rod, a fixed blade knife, none of them care whether the sun is out, whether a tower is still standing, or whether a battery happened to survive the trip. That built-in independence from outside systems is precisely why these particular tools show up again and again in kits built by people who've actually had to rely on their gear under genuinely adverse, unpredictable conditions. Item number 9 is calorie-dense, no-preparation food. And here's exactly where the philosophy shift from typical prepper thinking is probably the most dramatic of anything on this entire list. Most people instinctively think of survival food as needing to be a full, satisfying meal, something resembling actual dinner, and they end up packing genuinely heavy canned goods, elaborate freeze-dried meal kits requiring boiling water and real prep time, or bulky snack assortments that add up to a shocking amount of pack weight fast. Trained specialists instead favor compact emergency ration bars, the exact same category used in life raft and aircraft survival kits, delivering thousands of calories in a small, lightweight package that requires zero preparation and zero cooking time whatsoever. The entire underlying philosophy here is that in a genuine survival scenario, food's real job is keeping you moving and functional, not satisfying you the way an actual dinner would, and every single ounce spent on unnecessary bulk or elaborate meal variety is functionally weight that's actively working against your ability to move quickly when speed is exactly what matters most. It's worth being honest about the psychological side of this too, because it's genuinely part of why so many people resist this particular shift, even after they understand the logic behind it. A shelf lined with variety, different flavors, different textures, familiar comfort foods, feels reassuring in a way that a handful of dense uniform ration bars simply doesn't, even though the bars objectively deliver more usable calories per ounce of pack weight. That emotional pull toward variety and comfort is completely understandable, but trained specialists will tell you directly that a genuine survival scenario is exactly the wrong moment to be optimizing for enjoyment, rather than function, and the sooner that mental shift happens before an actual emergency, rather than during one, the better your decision-making tends to hold up when it actually counts. Now here's the deeper principle, tying every single one of these 9 items together, and it's honestly the most important part of this entire video. Trained survival specialists build their kits around what's sometimes called weight-to-utility ratio, a constant, deliberate evaluation of exactly how much genuine value each individual ounce inside that bag is actually providing. Before anything goes into a properly built kit, the real question isn't simply could this item theoretically be useful someday? It's does this item earn its specific weight better than literally anything else that could occupy that exact same space and that exact same number of ounces? Long discipline is precisely what separates a lean, genuinely functional 9 to 12 item system from the sprawling, overloaded 80-item bag so many preppers proudly show off online, a bag that, in an actual real emergency requiring speed, mobility, and quick decision-making under real stress, often becomes more of a liability than a genuine advantage. There's a specific rule of thumb worth mentioning here too. The idea that your fully loaded bug-out bag should generally stay somewhere around 10% of your own body weight, sometimes a bit more depending on your specific fitness level and how far you might realistically need to travel on foot. Go meaningfully beyond that threshold, and you start trading away real speed and genuine endurance in exchange for gear you may very well never actually end up using. While the gear that truly matters, basic wound care, gets buried somewhere deep in a pack that's simply become too heavy to move through quickly and efficiently when it actually counts. It's worth pointing out too that this 10% guideline isn't arbitrary. It comes directly out of decades of military load-bearing research, showing a fairly consistent point where additional pack weight starts measurably degrading speed, endurance, and even decision-making quality under real physical stress. Carrying meaningfully more than that threshold doesn't just slow you down in a straightforward linear way. It disproportionately increases fatigue, raises injury risk, particularly to your feet, knees, and lower back, and it also quietly eats into your mental sharpness exactly when clear, fast decision-making matters most. A lighter, leaner kit isn't a compromise or a lesser version of preparedness. It's very often the more genuinely prepared choice, specifically because it keeps you physically capable of actually using everything you're carrying. If you're building or reevaluating your own kit after watching this, here's your actual homework. Dump everything currently sitting in your bag out onto the floor right now, today, and for every single item, genuinely ask yourself 2 specific questions. Does this do more than one job, and have I actually practiced using it before, in a low-stakes setting, rather than simply trusting that I'll somehow figure it out under real pressure for the very first time? If an item fails both of those questions, it's very likely just dead weight quietly working against you rather than genuinely protecting you. And if you find yourself hesitating to actually remove something, ask one more honest question. Would you rather carry it comfortably and confidently for miles, or proudly own it while it sits mostly untouched in a bag too heavy to move quickly when it actually matters? If this changed how you're thinking about your own kit, drop a comment telling me which of these 9 items you're missing right now. I read every single one. And if you want the deeper breakdown on exactly how to properly organize a March Protocol first aid kit item by item, subscribe, because that's exactly what we're building out next, and it's genuinely the single most important 5 minutes you'll spend on this entire list. Stay ready, keep it lean, and I'll see you in the next one.